I use your
In progress.
handle the roll call, please.
Yes, I'm actually gonna turn over to Christian to do the roll call today.
So Don Baird, Vice Chair,
Present.
Roy Clark. President. Kathleen Cohn.
Present.
Michael Frick. Eric Graham,
Present.
Bernard Rutner. Present. Raymond Walker,
Present.
and Michael, Andrew, and Max will not be here today.
Thank you. There we go. Is there any change to the agenda? Any requests for change to the? We make a minor exception. What's happened with Andrew?
He had a family emergency. He had a family emergency.
Okay, all right. I'm the vice chair, so so don't give me a hammer. Okay. I don't think we need to do any introductions amongst us. And we're going to do public comments. Is this working? It's okay?
Yes, you can bring it a little closer.
It's green.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's actually working. Okay, all right. So time for public comments. You're limited to 3 minutes each. Who all do we have besides Paul?
I believe everyone else is on the agenda.
Okay,
Just me?
just you. Paul,
Great. Hey, Don, look over there.
we need to introduce yourself.
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm Paul Henderson. Oh, yeah. Hi, Paul Henderson, Upper West Side, volunteer here in Palm Springs. And I wanted to speak briefly regarding the smoke-free Palm Springs ordinance. And so far as I understand, no commissioner has actually selected to get engaged with it. I hope someone will soon. A brief update is I know pretty much that it has gone through the commission and really was kind of finalized. In fact, Roy just gave me a little bit of an update on that too and confirmed it. So we're really looking to find a commissioner who might be interested in working on bringing it forward to city leadership and endorsing it, say, please agendize this. So one of the approaches is if there are some resistance that some leadership might have, we could break it up into like a menu of here's the different components, what can you support so that we get something through. Because it's really been a long time and there really are some residents in our city that are suffering, for example, with multi-unit housing. We haven't passed that here in Palm Springs yet. We really need to do that. That was done by the federal government with anything that is HUD housing. In 2018, that started. It actually was implemented to begin at that time. So those are the only people in multi-unit housing that have been protected that way. So if anyone's interested, please reach out. OP knows how to get a hold of us. Many of you already know myself and my husband, Bob. And that was pretty much it. So please, someone take it up so we can move it forward. I would really like to see us make a difference with that. That has been a component that the city has said is important, and that is quality of life issues. That's a really important quality of life issue. This committee works on a lot of important quality of life issues, and that's a big one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Any other public comments? Okay. The chair's report, I'm not the chair, so I guess I don't have a report. Well, I don't have one. So let's go to staff comments.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Barrett. If you either perused the online agenda or received our packet as a commissioner last week, you will have had the staff memo. There wasn't quite as much new to report because it wasn't the first time we'd written a staff memo. So just kind of updates on a few different topics. I wanted to highlight a couple of specific items today, but I'm happy also to take questions from the commission and dive into any areas that I don't immediately highlight here. Most of what I wanted to talk about was more on the administrative side. So just as a reminder, we are still a 9-member full commission, so our quorum is 5 and our subcommittees are capped at 4. So I think both of our subcommittees are now at 4 members. I think Commissioner Rotner has recently indicated interest in joining Scour because he's on reserve from climate action, and I appreciate you doing that. And so I think we're now balanced at 4 and 4 for our commissions. But if anybody still wants to move around, we can also talk about subcommittees and things later when we review the prioritization activity from the last meeting. A reminder that per AB 557, as of January 1st, we no longer have the option to do a remote meeting of the commissioners. We need to have our meetings be in person. And if anyone is meeting remotely, you are required to publish the address of your location as a remote meeting location and theoretically allow members of the public to come to that meeting location. This is, you can think of that being most often used, like, for example, if there is a statewide commission of library directors and, they publish each of the library locations, work locations as like the location of the meeting. It's a little bit different if somebody comes to a library to give public comment than if they come to your house. So this is, let me know, obviously, if anybody has an issue and they really can't make it to the meeting and want to look at a remote option, we'll talk to the clerk's office, but it is going to strongly encourage everyone to be in person for the meetings whenever they can be there. So we'll still continue to maintain the remote option for members of the public. So if anybody wants to watch the meeting in real time or give public comment remotely, we'll be able to maintain that option and we'll continue to do so. Does anybody have any questions on that? Great.
Do we have any attendees today?
We don't have any remote attendees today, I believe, right, Christian?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's just, I'm in the meeting twice for reasons that are not germane to this particular discussion, but that's it. Next thing, so if anybody checked their email within the last 20 minutes, you will see some instructions from me on how to access your city email address. So wanted to make sure that that went out pretty close to this meeting so that we had some time to discuss what to do and not to do with that email address. So the email address formats are first name dot last name dash ABM. ABM stands for Advisory Board Member, if anybody's confused as to why there's an ABM in it. There are instructions in the email on how to get the password reset. And so if anybody has any issues getting the password reset, you can feel free to reach out to any one of the three of us and we'll help you do that. And mostly just wanted to remind everyone that now that you have a city government email address, you have a city government email address, which means treat it like a city government email address. So everything is still subject to Brown Act in the same way that your personal email address would be, honestly. So no, email threads with 6 commissioners talking about how you want to, do a secret scheme. Please don't do that. Will make my life really difficult and yours, but don't do that to me. Also, a reminder that all of the email addresses are subject to the Public Records Act. So the way they taught us in New York was don't email anything you wouldn't want on the front page of the New York Post because it could go on there. So just, be mindful of how you use the public resource and use it like public resource. If anybody has any questions or if you're like, hey, I don't know if this is okay to do here or whatever, please feel free to reach out to me. I've been to hundreds of trainings on this topic and I'm happy to talk through any concerns, or we can connect you to our city attorney's office as well.
Yeah, I've been involved in delicate issues in previous work and where Public Record Act has been accessed. And so don't put any addresses or anything in your email unless you absolutely have, don't put personal addresses or phone numbers because they can become public access.
So just, feel free to, you should use it, feel free to use it, but be smart. And so we're going to start transitioning for December. I'll email to both email addresses just so people can kind of get used to that. By January, we'll transition all of our communications just to those city email addresses. So just so you guys have a sense of the timing. Any questions about the email addresses? Okay, excellent. Then I will just kind of touch on a couple of little highlights here. So one is you'll see my favorite section in the email or in the memo, opportunities for commissioner involvement. So those of you who are in Climate Action Subcommittee got a little bit of preview of this. We are going to be administering a transportation survey in November and December. And by November, I mean probably December. So sorry, I should not have said November. But Christian is leading that effort. Christian is going to be attending a number of different events. We have our trusty iPads that we'll be working with people to take the survey on. And so if you either have a suggestion of an event we should make sure to attend or are willing to help us administer the survey, that would be great. So reach out to Christian if you're interested in doing that. And we'll get a calendar and some suggested dates out to folks. You can either come with us if there's something where you think, you're planning to be there and you're happy to be the one person doing the survey there, that's also fine too. So we're really just trying to make sure we get good coverage and good numbers across residents, visitors, and people who work in the city of Palm Springs but don't necessarily live here. So, if you have any questions or thoughts on that, Christian, is there anything you want to add on that topic?
No, at the moment.
Again, one PS should see this.
Yes.
I'll tell the vice chair, that we need to include it in the meeting and include it in the meeting at a point where people will actually be attending, not before they're beginning to fade away
Okay,
at the end. So that,
thank you.
and there are sites where it'd be really nice to get it distributed quite a bit. How are we going to handle that?
Do you want to talk about that?
Well, so far we've drafted up, a flyer for the visitors and for, residents and employers. And we're also gonna send it to like Denise Woolby, so it's put out in the newsletter and, our social medias and things like that. And then also sending to the business district people, to send out to different employers and things like that.
And I'm thinking of something specific, for example, the very heavy use of Demuth Park, in the evenings. I would be okay with helping distribute it at that point, that sort of thing. I mean, but we need to do something. Okay.
Yeah, the flyers have QR codes on them as well, so if there's anywhere where anyone, we can also hand out a couple at the next meeting, if you think, we'll make sure to get them at the community centers and other places, but if there's a place that you think we should have a flyer with a QR code, or, an evening of the week where you think it would be helpful for us to set up a little table at the Moon Park, we're happy to do that too.
I think if we can have some flyers, I can go to the pet stores or pet grooming places. So while the pet is getting groomed, people can just do the survey for us.
Love it, that's great. Yeah, anything where people are hanging out for 10 to 15 minutes is a great time for us to get people to do the survey, so, appreciate that. We will make sure that everyone who wants a flyer can get one. Pardon?
Nail shops.
Yeah, totally. Make the nail salon, yeah. I mean, honestly. As long as you're getting a pedicure, not a manicure, that's right. Good job.
I couldn't tell. You said nail shop.
Yeah.
I thought it was nail. Nail shops.
Any other questions or thoughts on the survey? Okay,
Why didn't we have them make Bay Pride so we could distribute them? Never mind.
I know, sorry. Yes, we look forward to aligning more surveys with more large scale city events.
Yeah.
When are you going to start?
December 1st.
Okay.
Well, the holiday parade is coming up too, so.
Yes, yeah, we are trying to figure out the best way to be at the holiday parade so that we're not pulling people out of the parade. So trying to figure out, we're working with the team to figure out what's the best way for us to do that, but yes, we'll plan to be there. We're also gonna be at the farmer's market on December 9th. So if anybody wants to join us there, we'll definitely be there. So just a couple of other really quick highlights. So we put in an application for just over $90,000 in funding to Cal Recycle recently. It's part of an annual funding request that they do. It's kind of like a formula funding. But we'll be putting that funding, if we're awarded, toward edible food recovery compliance with SB 1383. Scour has heard a little bit about that program, but basically the general thing is that we have to get restaurants of a certain size and all grocery stores diverting and donating their edible food. So there's a little bit of work to do on the compliance side, and then getting the restaurants onboarded is gonna be a little bit tricky because it's a slightly different model of food recovery. Once we have a little bit more meat on the bones, no pun intended, I will bring back a summary to this commission so people can kind of get a sense for that. Water, we haven't really heard anything yet back from the state after we had, they had the comment period, which I think we all discussed in August, but we'll keep everyone posted on that as soon as we hear. And then we've gotten a lot of reports from Foodware in the Wild where people are seeing styrofoam. So thank you, commissioners, for sending in those reports. We are following up with those. We did 5 educational visits last week. We've got another one to do this week. And so we'll keep those going. But if anyone has any questions or thoughts on that, happy to take those. Spencer's. Okay, yes. Spencer's and Sherman's. We got
Sherman's is what I was thinking.
we have a lot of Sherman's reports this week, unfortunately. So we did visit them last week. We got a bunch of new reports this week, so we'll be keeping an eye on them. And that's pretty much it that I think I wanted to highlight. I'll turn to the team. Is there anything else that you think we should highlight here?
Grandma has a spot in the community garden, doing a demonstration, lot for permaculture, so it's new.
Are there, do you wanna talk about it?
If anybody wanna go and see it, it's plot number 6, so you will see a bunch of grass on the top, don't worry, I'm using dried grass as mulch. I shot a video, probably I'm gonna add some voiceover to it, and then we can use it on the city website, kind of explaining what I did.
Awesome. We really appreciate you putting the demonstration into action. That's great. Thank you.
So we're in the community garden that's over by the Mood Center.
Yes.
I should come there.
Are there any questions from commissioners either on those topics or topics that I didn't explicitly speak to?
I noticed, I'm sorry, I should have raised my hand. I noticed the bicycle repair station. I never even knew it was there.
Yes, the bicycle repair station. So there is a large orange totem of some type, a large orange thing out in front of the library down at Sunrise, that is a bicycle repair station. So it has a pump inside and had, when installed, a number of different tools on kind of like, you know, little metal cords and things like that. My understanding from reviewing past information is that we haven't been able to keep the tools in place for more than a month at a time, and the pump working for more than about 6 months at a time. So I think we are open to ideas on how to continue to provide this service, and, you know, give people access to public tools or public pumping station. But the way we're doing it is not working. It's just not consistently maintained. I think it also was probably something that was installed using one-time grant funding that we don't have access to on a recurring basis to be able to buy more and more. So just trying to figure out, like, you know, what are the other ways that we might be able to solve that problem or meet that need? Is it a need that people still feel like is met best in this way? So we're soliciting some ideas from different members of the community, but as commissioners noodle on that as well. We are in the problem solving ideating stage for trying to figure this out.
Is that near the parking lot? Or is that?
Yes, yeah, it's in the
okay,
parking
yeah,
lot,
I have
like right in the
seen that.
front by the big mountainy looking bike rack.
Yeah, I would say we should talk about that more at some point in the
Yeah.
future and consider just getting rid of it because it doesn't add anything. So,
Yeah, that's sort of, yeah, sorry, was someone gonna say something?
but later, agenda.
Sorry, it's hard to,
We'll add a conversation to that later.
Okay.
I feel, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to have.
yeah, I think a worthy topic for us to dig in on a little bit, but
Yeah.
maybe not yet today, so maybe at a subsequent. Who is next? Where you want
Just one question on your key goals for the next month on the
Mhm,
last page.
sure.
You're talking about eliminating styrofoam used at Village Fest per month starting in quarter something.
Oh, sorry, did I just not write the quarter? Oh, it's supposed to be a 1, but it
Okay.
got either cut off or I had the wrong button on the computer. That's probably what happened.
Thank you.
Or asterisk.
Okay.
Yeah, starting Q1. Next question?
I have a question.
Yes.
I think last time when we talked, somebody mentioned that we are changing the people who are recycling our batteries that we are sending.
So we're not changing it, but the company merged. So there were 2 companies providing the service. Now there's just one company and it includes the company that we used to use. So we're in the process of trying to get more of those containers to do the recycling.
I'm not sure whether, how to handle this, but I really got into, educating kids on this one.
All right, cool.
So if we can have a video,
Sure.
or if you can just send me the company name, I will find a video on how they are recycling the batteries.
Cool.
So I would like to go to the schools and give those boxes and educate students on this is what needs to happen to a battery. You know, we need to put it into a circular economy, not a linear economy. So recycle your batteries and maybe we can talk about, can we do an appreciation for school which gets us the most batteries or do anything like that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I'll send you the materials they have. And if you want to take a look and see if there's anything that feels like it fits, we can also always reach out to them and see if they have other materials for that as well.
Actually, to add to that, when we were working on that program several years ago, I obtained a DVD from the company Battery Solutions that we were using for recycling. And it includes a tour of their factory. It shows them breaking the batteries apart and what they do with them. So that might be appropriate to use as well.
Okay.
Anybody else? Bernard?
I'll just wait till. I wanna talk about bike racks.
Oh, okay. Okay, gotcha. Sounds good. Yeah, we do have the commissioner comments and requests at the end of the meeting as well. So if there's anything else that people want to bring up and ask for a later meeting, we can do that as well. Okay, great. Well, then let us go ahead and move. Actually, I'll go back to our vice chair, to do this part. Sorry.
All right, so we're going to move on to new business. And now I remember why we have people in here who I didn't recognize. I'm sorry. So we are starting with, Dana McAllister, the building official.
Do you want to?
Sure.
Nice to meet everyone. Just wanted to go over some of the initiatives we have in the building department to help with, turn that on.
There you go.
Some of the initiatives we have in the building department to help with sustainability. The first one we have is we started with expedited permits for solar. They called our Building Simple PV program. So it actually allows the applicants to get real-time permitting. They apply online and they print up a permit after they've paid. So there's no delay in the permitting process. Another one we're working on right now is EV charging as well. So we can do the same thing with that. So people can apply online and print up a permit from their home or office, and there's no delay in the permitting. So, yeah, if there's any other initiatives that you want us to work on, we'd be happy to take a look and see if we can streamline the permitting and inspection system for that.
And do you want to just give like a quick background as well on
Sure.
where you come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. Yeah, originally from Massachusetts, but most recently I worked in Las Vegas. And on some projects on the Las Vegas Strip for the Clark County Building Department. So yeah, came here in July. So I'm very happy to be here. A lot of exciting projects here in the city. So yeah, like I said, if anyone has any questions or concerns, please reach out and happy to assist.
Dana and the team have been doing Herculean work to reduce the backlog of permits, especially associated with the adoption of the new online system, which, you know, it makes it really easy for people to submit permits, but the problem is it makes it really easy for people to submit permits, so we get a lot of them. But they've
Yeah.
been doing really great work to try to
True.
get that down, and I think the work on the simple, the instant solar PV
Yeah.
permit and the EV chargers is really gonna go a long way, because we see a lot of permit requests for those. which is
Yeah,
great.
we started the simple permits about a month and a half ago, and as of today, we've got about 170 that have been issued through the simple PV process. So it's working out really well.
You are saying EV, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry, PV on the first app, where PV is what we have active right now, so photovoltaic, anything solar. Which
Oh, okay.
includes battery storage systems as well as EV chargers that are included as part of that system.
Okay,
We're gonna introduce another permit that's strictly for EV chargers, but if someone's installing solar right now and they wanna do backup batteries and EV chargers, that is included in that simple process.
I think it would be interesting to have data available on the number of EV chargers being installed on any regular basis.
Mm.
Just it gives, so we can use it. It's a good way to say to the city, people are doing this.
Yeah, we can track. In fact, that's the great thing about our new system, Energov. I can see we can track specifically the new PV or photovoltaic solar systems in. We can break it down into batteries and EV chargers as well.
Let's talk about that in our meeting that we're gonna have in 2 weeks.
Exactly, yeah.
Very good. Other questions for Dana?
I just want to thank him personally for helping to facilitate the permit for my PV system at my house.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah. Appreciate that.
We've emailed back and forth a few times.
Yeah, and certainly if you need any assistance on the inspection side, let us know and we'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions or thoughts for Dana? Okay, awesome.
I would say, I would think that we would have a number of issues about permits and concerns over time, so I'm glad you're here, and it gives us some sense of like, okay, there's someone we can talk with and see where this is going, so.
Sure, absolutely, yeah, I'd be happy to,
Yeah,
I'm sure Dana will be back in
Yeah.
this meeting.
definitely, yeah, be happy to.
thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
Cool.
thank you very much,
so
nice
for
meeting you all.
coming by. Appreciate it. See you later.
All right, okay, and then, Public Arts Commission, Beautiful Shade, Arts, Parks and Sustainability.
I brought some special guests.
Okay. Okay. Actually, there's another microphone.
I'm Gary Armstrong. I'm the chair of the Public Arts Commission. LP and I
been in cahoots for a couple other projects, and my background is in the media world, and in the media world, you have different groups and configurations that you continually have to bring together. And when I came into the Arts Commission, I was surprised at how little the different commissions do work together. They seem to be these fiefdoms, and people would do stuff and no one else would know about it. So I'm continually trying to draw other commissions into all of the work that the Public Arts Commission did, which is how we met LP on an eco art walk we're proposing. And it started working with parks because I thought it was parks, but parks, it is not a park. But anyway, we're working on that. And Kristen's been involved in that too, and it's happening. This project that I'm gonna talk about actually started because we received a very strong request from council to focus on big public art in the city parks. They said, you know, you've got a lot of stuff downtown, there's some of the parks, put more in the parks. And they said, we'd ask you to focus on James O. Jesse Community Center and Victoria Park to start. So I said, okay, well, we can do big commissioned work in these parks. We can do some really interesting things. So we were talking about it in the Arts Commission. And then I stumbled across some work that an artist had done that was shade structures. And I sent that to the commission. I said, you know, not all art needs to be sculptural. Not all art just needs to be just beautiful stuff. Art can be functional as well. Look at these things for shade structures. And some of them I included on the page if you want to scroll down. And you know, they're fun, they're whimsy. If you did not necessarily need for the shade, if you were driving by, you would think it would be great. And one of the commissioners immediately said, oh, I'd love to do something like that around James O. Jesse. That would be great. Just these big flowers out in the field there. And I said, yeah, you know, let's talk about it. Palm Springs Post, who sort of camps out at all the Public Arts Commission meetings, did an item on it. And the next day, it was an aside, I'll comment as an aside. And the next day, I get an email from my good friend here, John Maraglia, who is the chair of the Parks Commission. And he said, I want to work with you on this. Let's do it. And so I said, okay, great. So the model I'm currently using is something that actually was where the Sustainability Commission and the Public Arts Commission worked together a number of years ago. And it was for a bike rack program. And it was a call for artists for bike racks. And they jointly did this call for artists. 5 artists, well, more than 5 artists submitted, but 5 artists were chosen. Each artist was given $5,000 to design a bike rack. The bike racks are still in place in city parks. And I believe this was 2014, I'm not positive. And the bike racks are still in place in the public parks. Now, because these were funded by the Public Art Fund, they are considered art. So they are part of the city's public art collection. And so we maintain them still. And the pieces of art are, there's a big spider in Victoria Park. There's a big turtle bike rack in Ruth Hardy Park. There was one in front of the hotel that used to be the Hard Rock, and I'm the Andaz maybe? No, not the Andaz. And it's sort of this weird cantilevered thing. And then there's another one uptown that's on the sidewalk, and it's called Palm Spring, and it's a big spring. And as I said, they were just a way to encourage people to use their bikes in the city. And it was when the city was putting all the bike lanes in. So it was a way to build awareness. So a lot of these joint functions, you may not say, oh, they don't really give a lot of functionality, but they really are about bringing awareness to something. They're a way for the public to see, oh, this is something we need to do and we need to be aware of. So I thought we could maybe try and do something similar with this beautiful shade. And I think we can all agree that we're not getting rid of sunlight. The sun and the heat are continuing. And we've got a lot of land, we have a lot of people who live here, and we should be doing more of this. And one of the things we were talking about with the Park Commission is that we need to bring in sustainability because they have a perspective on this that I don't have and the Parks Commission may not have as well. Generally, with these projects, I'm paying for them out of the Public Arts Fund. And my thinking is we would do a call for artists. We would work in conjunction with the Parks Commission because they understand how people use the parks, how different parks are used functionality wise, specific areas that may work for something like this, and types of shade structures that are needed in different areas. You know, they just did a big one up in the dog park in Demuth Park. I looked at it and said, oh, that's great, but it would have been nice to have an artist to design the shade. You know, you could have done this really beautifully designed cover rather than just looking white. But that's for you.
And, you know, so we can do different types of shade structures in different types of parks. We don't need to do the same one in every one. Where you guys come in is you understand and you have access to things like, how do you judge shade equity? How do you judge and how do you evaluate what, you know, if there's a percentage or a ratio of shade and how much does it give? We're not gonna be 100% with everyone. Some will err more on the side of, this is fun and whimsical, like maybe those big flowers. And some of the other ones may be more architectural. If you want to scroll down, there was one that was that one there, you know, that's really cool. If anybody's been to the outdoor La Jolla Mall, there's a big walkable mall there and they have shade structures everywhere on, hanging between the buildings. But what they are pieces of metal that have been laser cut with all these shapes out of them. And they create these amazing dappled effective design on the sidewalks and you don't feel like you're walking in the dark and it's really, really amazing. And, you know, we could do something like that there and maybe in a park, maybe you do something where it's laser cut words or laser cut quote or something like that. That could be sort of cool. So the art comes through not only the shape and the form, but also the effect on the ground and the effect on the people. Okay. And so I told our good friends at the Park Commission I was coming and I said, come, because for big projects like this, I think it's important for when this does get to council that we say this has the support of the Parks Commission and the Sustainability Commission and whatever other commission we can bring in on this. As commissions, as I said, we tend to operate in our own fiefdoms, but ultimately we are all representing the people of Palm Springs. They don't understand the different breaks of the commissions and who's responsible for what. So I think the more we can get involved, the more impact you can have on this, and the better off we will be, and this will be making a nice big statement. Now, I think this could be a big program. I think this could be a program that we can annualize, where we have a call for artists maybe every 2 years, and we just introduce new designs into it. Financially, I think that the Arts Commission could cover design and manufacturing of the prototype. And then we could have people who say, oh, we really love this one. We want 5 of these in Sunrise Park. And then we would go to Measure J, when they do their community grants, or to the general fund and say, we need you to fund 5 of these at that point. Okay. And at this point, I will turn it over to the Parks Commission, if you want to talk, if you want to say anything.
We really are here just to support this, because obviously we get complaints all the time. We're sweating our butts off, you know, we're getting sunburned. Can we get some more shade structures? As most of you probably know, we recently put up additional shade structures in Green Party Park, big blue ones. As Gary just mentioned, the Duluth Dog Park just had a shade structure. So we're constantly being asked for shade structures and water features, quite honestly. So obviously anything we can do to figure out where to put shade structures would be a huge win for the whole city, I think. Would my colleague like to say?
I think you both have said it all. Thank you.
Are there any questions for us at all, or any initial thoughts?
Let's do
Either
Roy,
gentleman.
then Bernard.
I don't know who you are, but.
Roy first, then Bernard.
I think this is great. I was really impressed by what I read and what you just said. I guess I'd like to think outside of the parks or outside of the box a little bit. One of the things that we've been talking about in the commission, and more specifically in the Climate Action Subcommittee, is reducing the amount of vehicle transportation that we have in Palm Springs. It turns out that 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions in Palm Springs and statewide come from vehicles, motor vehicles. And so one of the solutions is to have electric cars. Another solution would be to get more people to ride bikes and walk. And specifically thinking about walking, one thought that I had is thinking outside of the parks, perhaps thinking of corridors where people might be encouraged to walk, and then develop shade structures in those particular corridors. And the only one that I can think of right now, and I know that the Sustainability Commission talked about it several years ago, is a walk-in corridor from the convention center to downtown. And that might, and that I think would be a case where vehicle traffic could be reduced substantially, because people who go to the convention center come from downtown or go to downtown after an event. So I guess I'd just like to suggest, and perhaps something that we as a commission can work with you on more, and it may not be in the next year, but over the next few years, is developing these kinds of shade structures in walking corridors within the city.
You know, this is my cowardly response in that it's easier to get things done in the parks.
I understand.
In that, you know, the minute you go on the corridor on the sidewalk, you're dealing with right of way issues and a lot of other. With that gentleman back there needs to get involved. So the parks are easy. And as I said earlier, when we introduced the bike racks as a way to say to people, ride your bike around Palm Springs. I think if we start off with the parks and are they symbolic? Sure, that's okay though. We want to show people shade can be beautiful.
And I agree with that 100%. Because I'm not afraid of tackling other things because
Which is why I'm saying I think we can make this an annualized program. It does not need to be a one-off.
in order to meet the reductions of GHG emissions, we're going to have to drastically reduce vehicle transport.
You know, we're going through something right now with the Arts Commission where we had two programs that the painted benches and then the painted utility boxes. And they were great because they added art in parts of the city that may not get art. They were bad because we don't really own the utility boxes. And sometimes they get removed and sometimes they get covered up with things, which annoys the artist, but there's nothing we can do about that. Now, the value of those are that they sort of empower sort of lower income artists, non-traditional artists to have a piece of artwork in the city. Not every artist can do a $50,000 sculpture. So I was even thinking we could do a program where maybe we have some of these shade structures and then we have local artists paint them in sort of fun, bright messaging colors. They can be much more interesting than just pure white. So if we come up with this shade structure that's sort of a template, and then we can have different artists paint them as well. And we've had great success with our art in using automotive paint. And what that does is it does not fade and it maintains its brightness rather than having to repaint it every 3 or 4 years due to sun, heat, or irrigation issues. So I agree. I'm just saying, I want to bite off what we can chew actually at the moment.
I fully agree with that, but I wanted to plant that idea, and I think that's something that the commission, or at least our subcommittee, might be talking about as we go on.
I just had a couple thoughts on, for you to think about, I guess, when you're looking at developing these sculptures and looking at incorporating planting, and also different types of materials that may be upcycled or more sustainably used types of materials when you're kind of planning these kinds of thoughts from a sustainable.
You know, that could even be incorporated when we do the call for artists, where we could have a special one that says a shade structure using recycled materials. And then one that's maybe a little more durable with, you know, the metal ones here. We don't have to do all the same, and they don't have to have all the same requirements. Again, if we created an annualized program, we can have distinct categories within them as well. In terms of landscaping, I can't really do landscaping out of my budget. That would come out of the Parks Commission budget. I'm responsible for the art. That's what I can fund. I can fund your plants and landscaping if it's been integral to the artist's design. So.
Okay. I have a question for you. Wasn't it just recently they did a call for artists that we were putting sculptures and different things down Tockwitz?
Correct.
What program, is that one still going? Is that?
That one, the artists were awarded. You'll be seeing the press release, I believe, the week after, next Monday.
Okay.
So that one is the Pillars of Palm Springs. And that one is very, very exciting. The designs are exquisite. We're thrilled with them. That one, I work closely with the Human Rights Commission on that because they were representing the people of the city. And I wanted the Human Rights Commission to have their fingerprints on that. And they were thrilled with the answers. So but you'll be seeing them, but they're exciting. That'll be all up and installed on April 15th, 2024, which is World Art Day.
Awesome. I have one more thing. I agree with Roy. We just recently had a subcommittee meeting where we were talking about moving people around the city and doing different things, bikes, things like that. I'm also, a member at large on another committee called the Business Retention and Economic Development Committee that basically just signed and basically passed an ordinance last week. Breaking up the city into business districts. One of the things in the business district meetings they've actually had is how to get people moving around the city into our other business districts. This is something I see what you're doing. This is awesome, but also for future, those are things that us businesses will want to bring people new things that they actually can see within their communities. I understand your point of not being able to sometimes work with in certain areas. Parks is an easy thing. But I think the city and a lot of the committees right now are doing more outreach and looking at each other and doing what you're doing. I think you recognize it just like a lot of the people in this room and the other committees are recognizing each one of these committees are actually trying to work together more than they ever have. And I see it, and I think that it has a lot to do with the I want to say change in our city manager and other things. So I think there's the positivities there for us to move forward.
It's not that parks are easy, it's just they control the footprint.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to when you're doing a pathway, you're dealing with a lot of people who own the property. And you know, right of way issues and traffic issues and, but this is phase one. I think we need to look to various phases.
Yeah, I definitely see this as like a yes and situation, right? Like, and sorry, Bob, to jump in before you, just so the commission knows. So we are, Christian's gonna be leading some work with planning on doing some broader shade planning and thinking about all the, like, the ways that circulation and shade work together. And so I think, this will not be the only opportunity is kind of what I'm saying, to like think about how we might extend something that works well in the parks. You know, something that we might see work in this circumstance and we might support in that way if the commission chooses to do so. We may have opportunities in the very near future to continue to build on that. And I think, you know, we're furiously taking notes from all these other opportunities for connection, but just wanted to let the commission know that it's something that we'll be bringing back in the next couple months and that we'll continue to work with you all on.
And some of the structures, we may have solar capabilities on them and others won't. And, you know, in Sunrise Park, we have 15 pieces of public art. Not everybody knows about it, but maybe on these shade structures, we do a QR code, which then takes you to all 15 pieces of public art within Sunrise Park. So it ends up sort of being this meeting station underneath the shade structure. I think, as I said, these three commissions, we're inventing it. We can do what we want, as long as we can fund it.
Yeah.
And he approves it.
Well, just to.
Right, Don next and then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, we need to raise
I'm
hands.
trying to track of the queue.
Unfortunately, we keep hitting the same point here. I'm really in favor of things that continue, that help encourage pedestrian and biking around the city. And I'm thinking of, you know, many cities are using micro parks. I'm throwing a whole new agenda here. You know, we could have micro parks, and maybe the reason for micro parks is because it's easier to do things in them. It's a new creation, and for example, you mentioned Sunrise Park, but yeah, that is a big shopping area all through there. And then Ramon, with a little bit of a break, and then you get down to Caballero, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic from Caballero, from the Warm Sands District into Arenas and it's actually downtown. If we could have micro parks along the way with very attractive and well done things to and lure people to at least stop and rest for a minute and then move on, get a drink of water out of a fountain, something like that. I'm on the same as Roy and Eric, you know, that we need to consider. We need to consider shade structures and possibly parklets further afield, and other cities are doing parklets. So.
It's me now, okay. I just wanted to add a couple of things. I really love the shapes idea and how the designs are, and I'm just wondering when we go into finalizing the shade structures, if we can have a ratio of like, hey, for every 5 shade structures, maybe we are putting 1 or 2 live shade structures with stuff growing on it. Because, that way it's not, because when I first saw that before going on to Google and searching about it, so that's a big giant piece of metal, it's gonna create heat island effect, and in the summer, it's hard to stand underneath it when it's already 120 outside, and under a metal structure, it's gonna be a little bit less hard, but it's gonna be hard. So we can kind of balance that with, hey, we are doing this beautiful art, and if we are adding architecture and live plants to it, what can we do about it? And kind of balance it, and that will be really nice to send people on a quest, like, here are the all shade structures in our city, like the one you're saying. For funding, I just received an email 20 minutes before, right after your email. There is a $2 billion fund for environmental and climate justice, community change grants as part of investing in America agenda today. So I think there is an opportunity for us to make some good changes to our community to this grant. I don't know, we need to apply for it, but I think that grant will be like back as a for certain things that we want to do for our community. And yes, shade structures are really important, especially at stops or parks.
I think that's wonderful. I can fund things that are tangible art. So if it were involving a lot of plantings, which I think could be amazing, I don't know if I could fund that. That's up to lawyers. I need the tangible thing because it then becomes part of our collection, whereas a plant can die. But again, that's why we do a call for artists. We do a call for artists and we say, this is what we're doing. What's your specialty? We tell them, and you guys would be a part of writing the actual call, say that each shade structure must provide whatever your number is, 35% shade, or I'm sure you have calculations, and it must be durable, must withstand heat up to 127 degrees. I think that we generally use wind, all those other configurations that we use for any structures in the city. And then come see what the artists come back with. We don't tell them anything else. And, I never would have thought of doing a big flower, but look what this guy did, and he's based in Arizona, so he sort of knows what works in Arizona. And they look pretty cool to me. You do a bunch of those in the field outside James Hood Jesse Community Center, it would look pretty amazing. So, because it's just big and barren, and let's make it pretty. Okay.
Any other commissioners, Mr. Cohen, anybody?
So, what I would ask is, as I said, we've got commitment from the parks. I think you guys you want to be a part of this. If LP or Christian can let me know, maybe 2 commissioners that want to join, and then we could have sort of a subcommittee that we're joining, and then we'll bring it back to the full commissions, but we don't want to have 30 people throwing ideas all around. And then we'll draft a mission statement that we'll follow, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Maybe we can follow up on this offline, but does anybody initially want to kind of like put themselves forward, or do we want to think about it and let you, Christian, know?
Perhaps we can handle it in the climate action subcommittee.
Sure, and we'll make sure that anybody who's not part of that subcommittee also gets the
Right.
information just in case.
We'll always try to report out.
Right. Great.
Any other questions for me? Or the parks, you got the parks here, his ears perked up on that bike station.
Yeah, totally. Please, let's discuss the bike station.
I've been saying for ages that we need to work more with parks, so now here we are.
Yeah. We really appreciate you all bringing the proposal to the commission, for coming to the commission, and your support in this work, and I know the commissioners are excited to continue to work together. I'll stop speaking for them though.
Okay.
Great. Thank
Totally
you.
agree.
all so
Thank
much.
you.
Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Roy?
I think we're ready to move on to that other fun topic.
Correct. So Commissioner Clark, is there anything you want me to put on the screen for this?
No,
Okay.
I learned, not too long ago, and brought it up in the, meeting of the, climate action subcommittee, that at a meeting of the planning commission, in October, because October 25th, there was a discussion about a proposal for a drive-through only coffee shop to be located at the intersection of North Palm Canyon and Racket Club. If you're familiar with that area, you'll know that the plot that they're looking at, or the piece of land that they're looking at, is on the southeast corner that's vacant right now. Next to it, there's a Del Taco, and then the rest of Racket Club to Indian Canyon, and then even across Indian Canyon is all vacant. But the piece of property that is being considered is the property on the corner there of Racket Club and Palm Canyon, and the address is 2466 North Palm Canyon Drive. Well, wearing my climate action hat, that immediately set off alarms, because what we're trying to do within the subcommittee, the climate action subcommittee, is to work on ways for reducing vehicle transportation in the city. And so it turns out that this is going to be taken up by the city council at their meeting on December 14th. So what I thought I would do is bring it to the commission tonight. And what I really like to get is an agreement that somebody can speak for the commission, and I'd be happy to do it, or somebody else could do it if they wanted to. Speak on behalf of the commission, saying that the commission opposes this proposed coffee shop. And I think it would have some effect if we did that. So what I'd like to do is basically eventually make a motion tonight about opposing the proposed drive-through, but I also have some wording that I would like to use, or at least propose for using, for public comment at the city council meeting on December 14th. And basically saying that the Sustainability Commission voted to request that the city council oppose the proposed drive-through coffee shop at that address, assuming that we do vote. And then refer specifically to the Palm Springs Climate Action Roadmap, which was presented to the council in October of 2021. And the roadmap does point out that California Senate Bill 32, which was passed in 2016, requires a 40% reduction in the level of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 compared to the level in 1990. Currently, motor vehicle transportation accounts for about 50% of the GHG emissions in the city and statewide. And we talked about that at the last subcommittee meeting as well. And then make a simple statement that the city should be taking action to discourage motor vehicle transportation and not to encourage it. And then ask them again to please vote no on that agenda item. So I'd like to make it very simple. Opposing in principle, having something that's drive-through only and encourages motor vehicle transportation, not going to any more details about the design and so forth, but really just make a broad statement from the commission on principle. So that's what I would propose to say, and also if we did that and one person speak at public comment, we could also add to it I would say a memo from LP, a formal memo to go into the agenda packet for that particular meeting as well. So I'd like to make a motion for that, and then I'll need a second, and then we can have some discussion. But the motion would be: the Sustainability Commission opposes the proposed drive-through coffee shop at 2466 North Palm Canyon Drive.
I second that.
Before we go into the motion, does anybody have any questions or clarifying comments before we move to the motion?
Yes.
We've got Bernard and then Commissioner Cochran.
I just have a quick question, Roy, in terms of, I don't know, I've never been to a commission meeting. If they were to ask questions, is there a way to enforce the idling of cars as you're driving through? Is there any data that we can kind of include in the discussion when you're reporting on the commission to help kind of beef? I'm a data person, so I like the idea of, cars idling, produce blah percentage of GHGs, and that's not good. I mean, I agree with you 100%. So I think just to beef that up.
Yeah, it certainly could be mentioned I don't know that, I wanted to keep it as broad and general as possible, but, you know, it could be clarified that, you know, idling is a big part as the cars are waiting there, but really the point that I was suggesting is that any increase or any encouragement of driving should be turned down. And we should be working hard on finding other ways of getting around. And again, not going into any kind of detail, but if you're familiar with that area, it's really not a pedestrian friendly area because traffic is very fast on Palm Canyon, it's fast on Racket Club. But that's not to say within a few years that could be developed into more of a pedestrian friendly area. There's a lot of housing on the north side of Racket Club. And then there's housing along Indian Canyon. So, you know, we can't predict what it's going to be like in the future, but, you know, that's probably the way the city should be going. I don't want to go into that kind of detail. But I could mention, we could mention just idling, you know, backing up of cars and so forth.
Just a quick clarification on part of your question. So to my knowledge, we don't have any regulations on the state or local level around idling reduction, because I think you mentioned, like, is there a regulation? I don't think we have one currently. But I know there's definitely been analysis done on like the contribution of idling cars and drive-throughs for sure. So we could, especially if we're submitting something written, we could definitely include it there, and I think could be strong to include.
That would be, that's a good point. More detail could be put in something that was written. And I know, think about the time I joined the commission the first time in 2016, there was discussion about having an idling ordinance, and nothing ever happened with that.
Commissioner Cohen, and then
I think.
oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
If you needed to cite something, so I learned that Palm Desert has a drive-through ban on 111, and they cite like air pollution and littering as like part of the reason why they did this ban. So if you need like an example,
If you have some information, I'd like to see that.
okay, it's just a news article, but
Oh,
I
okay.
guess it's just, yeah.
Commissioner Cohen, and then
I
who
think-
else is in the queue? Then Donna.
I think from what I've read about, the establishment of that Roy's talking about, it forbids walk up. So that makes it a double whammy of being, it doesn't encourage walking at all because they won't serve you if you're walking. So,
And actually, there was a staff report that went with the commission, the planning commission meeting. I didn't read the whole thing, but there'll also be a staff report prior to the council meeting. And that might provide additional things to comment on, although not in a lot of detail, but that's a good point.
Commissioner Barrett?
We have recently permitted 2 modifications of coffee houses, and I haven't followed it, but you just can tell. The one in, across from the Ralphs in Sunrise in Vermont, that was modified so as to increase the ability of traffic of takeout windows. And then if you are ever around the one that's on the Walmart parking lot, they have long lines of cars there, so we're probably gonna get that as questions about what makes this different or something like that. I mean, it is very different. I think taking a position of opposing anything for expanding drive-through would be sort of, I don't want to say that at this point. But I think that something running in that direction that builds that as a broader agenda, and I think what Christian just said about Desert, if we can find that to add support to it would help. And am I making sense?
Other questions or comments?
I have one other.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, if I recall correctly, that a Rancho Mirage does not allow drive-throughs at all. Is that
I haven't been to.
or is it just
we
along
will-
the corridor?
We will consult the online to find out. I don't know off the top of my head. We will find out.
Initially, they did, one of them, Rancho Mirage or Palm Desert, didn't allow them in their commercial areas.
Right.
Yeah.
That,
But, yeah.
the in and out
The in
that
and out,
was built, was a big,
Yeah.
a big
And in and out
controversy.
is terrible about traffic, so that
Yeah.
might be a good one
Oh,
this time.
it goes, you see the line
Right.
long lines, yeah, waiting.
And just one point about public comment, it's limited to 2 minutes, and there isn't any discussion at that point. The only discussion takes place when the council actually gets to the item. But the people who make the public comment aren't allowed to comment again, although I was allowed once, a long time ago, when we were talking about leaf blowers.
But our comments can work into the document that
Right,
LP makes.
Sure, which I have not done, I have not filed such a thing in the past, like I haven't filed it, sort of like an amicus brief on, you know, on a thing, you know, like, so I'll have to just double check with my folks, just to make sure I understand what we would be permitted to put in, you know, whether we're effectively like filing it as public comment as part of the agenda packet, or whether we're filing like a sustainability office staff report, I'll have to find out. But I'm happy to consult, and figure out what we can do there.
and whatever it is, I think it would be valuable because the council members would see it ahead of time, and then they would hear it during the council meeting as well.
Yeah, so I've definitely filed staff reports, but never one quite like this, so I just have to double check and figure out the right best way to do that.
So,
Did you have?
Yeah, I have a comment. Since we are talking about the drive-throughs and everything, I think maybe we should think about, do we want it as an ordinance for the long run? If so, what are the limitations that we want to see? Probably we are gonna get 10 other companies or 10 other pop-ups that wanna have a drive-through. So if we can, maybe in the next year or at the end of the next year, if we say, hey, you know, these many drive-throughs we have, and we want people to walk more and enjoy walking, get healthier, so we don't wanna permit any more drive-throughs in Palm Springs. Is that something that we wanna work on? Or we wanna just say no to this one and see what comes after that?
I think that's a good suggestion, something that we could work on in the long term. I think it'll be a powerful statement if we oppose this and the council actually votes it down. That might reduce the likelihood that other companies would propose drive-throughs.
okay, let's get with the motion, and the motion has been made and seconded.
Yeah, so the motion has been made and seconded, and so, do we need to do a roll call vote for this, or do we do? just consent?
We're visible, I think we can do
Just the-
use
Hand raise?
hands or.
Okay, we're gonna do a hand raise vote. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, so with the 6 commissioners present voting, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roy, for bringing this up and handling that.
Thank you, Roy.
We're ready to move on.
Okay, yes, so just checking time, so we've been here for about an hour. Do people want to take a 5-minute stretch break, restroom break?
Stand up.
Stand up break. Okay, so let's do 5. Then just so everybody knows, basically the rest of the agenda, we're gonna spend a little bit of time on the website with some of the prompts that I put in the email and in the packet. We're not gonna finish this discussion tonight, and then we'll revisit also the prioritization exercise from last time. So in terms of orienting your brain, we're going into brainstorm mode. So whatever you have to do to go to brainstorm mode, let's do that.
And the bathrooms are.
The bathrooms are over this direction. We'll
Those are closed.
we'll escort folks down the hall here, to the, like, down the council hall. So you don't have to go outside and come back in, because I actually don't know if that door is unlocked right now.
Oh.
So we'll come with
we
you.
can Go down that way.
Just wait 1 second. We're gonna keep the Zoom running, so everybody be mindful of the fact that the Zoom is still running with the recording as well.
So we'll start at 6:40.
So anyone who needs restroom break, come in.
We're doing it.
We're gonna go down the council hallway, because I don't think the front council member is at here. Sorry.
All of the takeout, if you will, or whatever, turns into only food to walk up. There's gotta be change.
Well, you know, and it's, all of this comes together.
Right.
When we need to be
Yeah.
thinking about all of these things.
Right, because people are not gonna walk. I'm fine, how are you?
You talk about, you were about, how you know, no, yeah.
No.
You do too. Leave a, oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really nice to meet you in person.
I love it.
Just on the, well, we took on the other side, very well. And they're probably doing grids and giving them property. Approached us.
So he told me that they were mulch around the tree. Yeah.
So we're.
So they should be doing that. I told them that we want them, so. And I'm supposed to have a meeting with them about something else, so. I'll follow up. He didn't really respond about general mulch, but I'll ask again.
Yeah.
I'll figure
Yeah,
that out.
At the
and
hill.
it's just, we have a pile of mulch laying around there, so I can.
Well, it's gonna be, is there right now that they can do.
Today I found a view that they could be scratched and they have nothing. Even
And so
it's a chart.
I agree
and they can
immediately.
do
It was good, I was in there.
And I
Yeah.
thought about it earlier this week, because I said at the council meeting.
Goat manure in there, so don't go there. Goat manure in there, so don't go. Because,
We're actually one,
yeah,
because
so
three and
manure
place,
is a
but
high
then now
nitrogen
they're
source,
gonna put
that's all
cars
the
up there.
microbes.
Plus, they don't want the business, they just want cars.
I think bottom line is they want the business and they'll do anything to get it.
And I get it, but I think that,
It's cold.
that's the, it's not who we are. And I don't think it's.
You saw the procedures where they put fake
Yeah.
amount, so you can just
Okay.
use it. Wrong conversation.
I'm gonna go back up here.
I got it from a.
Yeah, so she, who knows, but she might.
That's, well, that's. That's great.
No, it's really. And I thought you'd go there, but
Oh, okay, all right.
I love to take it because I need it.
but that Grace is the one who told me it's gonna be. And that's what I decided to propose, that we talk about it.
I need to replenish it. I had a 6 inch
Okay.
of much last
And if you have
year.
other, you know, other
Half
people
inch or so, so I got.
who might wanna comment, that's valuable.
Oh, that's how I build soil.
They can say it's
Other
from
than that,
you.
it's all
yeah.
sand and water
But,
from
Yeah.
soil.
Like your
This much builds the soil and
comments the
that's
last,
water.
wondered like other people, a different point of view.
Yeah, everybody
So
did.
we'll do that, you know,
Did you-
see.
oh,
And your friend, supposed to meet, yeah,
I need,
tomorrow.
they came to
Oh,
me
yeah.
and said, you're a different point of view, we want you to add your story. And that worked. Well, we knew what was gonna pass, we wanted to put the butter on top of the bread.
Sometimes the council, if there's a lot of people wanting to
That's
talk
why
about
we have
something,
these cages.
you know, if you're gonna say the same thing.
Oh,
give her-
the
They
rat
don't,
nest
they
was-
don't, yeah, well, that's why Dean.
Very
came to me
enterprising
and
squirrels.
I told him the
All we
story,
need
but I
is a
had told the
bougainvillea
story
plant.
in
I
the
think
first
that's what I
initial
wanna talk to
meeting
the
that we
students. We
had.
need a bougainvillea
back in June
inside the
of this
garden,
retention.
community garden,
So
so we
I
can
said
tell
that was
people,
one,
hey,
was it
you
like
don't have to
half
build
habit
cages.
because
You can
I-
snip off those
that
bougainvillea
story,
because they have
I told
those
the meeting,
spiky
that was
bones
really
so far.
a horrible
So
story.
rodent snakes
Nobody
won't go
told.
over them.
Mhm.
So you can use it
Those
as a
first days
mulch
of
for
COVID.
your garden and you just
And
need to
when
be
the city
careful
said,
while
"Oh,
working
you
around
get on
them.
the Zoom meeting
But
next
you're
Thursday,"
killing
I'm
two
like,
birds with one
"You
bullet,
gotta be kidding me."
mulch and no rodents or snakes.
And it was just,
Yeah, I
this
haven't
whole
had
business
those rodent
retention,
problem. I think it's
it,
just depends
it's
on what
gonna
they're growing.
change how
Yeah.
the city functions.
I haven't seen any, but I've
I
seen
can
some
actually
holes
see
in it.
Yeah, yeah. There are bunnies underneath the compost.
Jeff,
I'm like,
and it's just,
Yeah.
I see the difference
Just come
in
around
what the way things.
and do your thing on that
I know
farm.
it's gonna get like awesome.
Are we ready to get back going? Dawn, I was gonna give you an opportunity to bang the hammer if you
No,
want.
I was waiting, just waiting for you to go.
We're on
So that I
time.
would, so that I would not appear to be rude.
Fair. Okay, sorry to cut off what I'm sure were great conversations, and I hope you all can continue those after. So I want to just keep us moving here, because we do have a little bit more brain work we have to do, so. Want to spend a couple minutes talking about the website. So this is something that's been raised, I think, in all of our meetings so far, and also all of our subcommittee meetings as well. Is basically our communication, and really kind of starting to focus on our digital communication. So we'll start here with some prompts, and then I'm gonna take everybody on a quick tour of our website. We'll take a quick glance at like the city calendar, we'll peek at the Instagram real quick, but mostly we're gonna focus on trying to figure out what we want it to be first. And I want everybody to think more about, think about the triangle chart that I showed everybody on our orientation around sort of like ideating, interpreting, kind of think about some of those core functions, as opposed to specifically I want a map on the website that shows me where this is. That's not kind of where we're at today. Right now, we're thinking, I want to know where all the bike racks are. I wanna know all the places that I can recycle batteries. I wanna know the city's progress on EV charging station, like, you know, let's think more about, you know, kind of the goals of the website as opposed to specifically how we implement those goals. So with that in mind, I want you to think about these 4 questions that we'll then come back and answer in a minute. So what types of information are you looking for on the city's website? So what would you want to know from here? What have you in the past come to our website to try to find out? Whether you actually found that out or not, we'll get back to, but what might you want to know? How easy or hard is it to find information on the website? So I was telling Christian and Juliet earlier, you know, back when I did like digital comms stuff, we had the rule of thumb that you should be able to find pretty much anything on the website in 3 clicks or less. That definitely does not apply to this website at all. But I know Christian's done some great work actually this year, reorganizing some of our navigation, which has made it a lot easier to find some things. But you know, let's, in whatever our rule of thumb is, you know, not obviously not everything necessarily has to be discoverable that way, but most of it. We do have the ability to search this website, but also search is kind of funky sometimes. So where else might you go for this kind of information? So, you know, if there's a thing that you're looking for, would you also check a different website, or would you be more likely to go to a different website or something like that? And then what might seem to be missing? So if you look at our website and you're like, there feels like a conspicuous absence of ABC thing, like we spend a lot of time in this commission talking about X topic and I don't see that here, or, you know, those kind of things. I also would love to spend some time after we do the really quick just website tour, and by quick, I mean really quick, highlighting anybody's favorite websites. So ideally, government and sustainability website, but honestly, if you're like, this website just really rocks and this is why, let's look at some websites. So would love to spend a little bit of time today just kind of surfacing what we want from this, and then we'll talk a little bit also about our technical limitations for the website, just to kind of give everybody a sense of what we can and kind of really can't do. And then hopefully we'll continue to carry this forward in this meeting. If we want to have separate, like, you know, ad hoc meetings about the website, you know, we can do that as well. Does anyone have any questions before I take us on the website tour? Okay, great. So we're going to look at the website. So one of the fun things is that there are actually 5 different URLs that you can type in to get to our website. They appear on old logos, they appear in old plans, they appear on various business cards, merchandise we've handed out. There are many URLs that we use. The one that I always use is yoursustainablecity.com, which I don't know how we got that one, but that's pretty lucky. But you can also obviously navigate through the government tab. The reason I don't navigate through the government tab is because we're at the bottom and you have to scroll down, and sometimes when you're scrolling, the computer gets distracted with the scroll and you can't click on it. So that's why I usually just go with the direct URL. We have here a lot of information on our quick links to popular topics. I will also take ownership of the fact that there are 4 different ways that this is written, like the format is different in this box. That's my fault for not like being more consistent with that. These are the things that we have historically known to be a lot of the things that people come to our website looking for. You'll see particularly here information about shredding event, which is honestly the main thing that people come to our site for. One technical limitation to note, I do not have analytics for this website. I do not know how many people are clicking on different pages. I do not know how many people are clicking on certain links. That is not a thing I currently have. It is theoretically something we might be able to get in the future, but we don't have really great data on who's using the website at this time. But we might get it in the future, but we don't have it right now. So here's kind of like the main page with our quick links. As you can see, there's a lot of quick links, but there's a lot of different stuff that people come to this website for as well. There's also some things on here, like, you know, my contact information is listed here. This is not forever going to be exactly the plan, because when everybody's just calling my phone, they are a victim of the fact that I am in a lot of meetings and fixing EV chargers 40% of the time. So people can't always get directly to me, but often I think because this website is a little bit tricky, people just resort to calling, which we're happy to do. We love to be the human face and the human voice behind these things and make these things feel approachable and helpful. But I think a lot of the questions that we get could be answered more efficiently by the website. We also have information about the commission here, and then we have the city's kind of standard news feed here. So we don't really have control over this widget, but we could. I generally try to steer away from doing a lot of news that we curate, because then that just becomes another job that we have to do to make sure the news is fresh. Which is fine, which we can do, that's priority, but
And I thought it was distracting to have the news on the same page. Can we tell the city to put it someplace else?
I can probably get rid of that. I'm not actually sure, but we can try. That's a great point. You know, if anything that's not germane to the current topics, we can just strike from the homepage. I think that's fair principle. Same thing goes for events. So this is kind of like a pull from the city's calendar. So it does include like our meetings, because those appear on the city calendar, but it's not filtered to just sustainability related events here. Though I think I might be able to do that, but I'm not sure. Any other immediate reactions or questions on the main page?
It's way too vertical.
It's a lot of words, yeah. I feel like that's a general theme for this website, is a lot of words.
It's the city's, it looks like the city's website.
Exactly. And I will say, you know, the template is limited. However, one thing that I often tell people is like, y'all try to work on any other government website and y'all let me know how it goes. Because this is much more, like, we can actually edit this page, like we have the rights to edit this page, we have the ability to do some like basic HTML, like little stuff. That is not given. Like,
I've seen a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because I did some
Sure.
searching and it's like, oh, wow,
Yeah, it's like, relatively speaking.
it's time to.
Yeah.
Keep it simple to maintain it.
Exactly. So Christian did some great work this year on reorganizing our sidebar, because our sidebar used to make absolutely no sense. It is now, first off, alphabetized, so thank you, Christian. Second, things are grouped in ways that are like logically related. So I want to just take you to a couple of quick pages just to give you like some examples of some things that we've done this year. So want to start here with the community garden pages. Christian did some great work on updating this information on the community garden, kind of getting people aware, you know, giving people some additional information on like how to rent a plot. You know, so this is kind of a, you know, there's a lot of information. The balance that we hit here often is there's a lot of information to share. And there's a lot of words involved in sharing all that information. Images work okay on this website. They're not great, but they work okay. Videos are like, okay, but sometimes they can get out of date and look like kind of old, like, you know, so, you know, we can do it, but, text is usually like the easiest thing for us to put in here. So this is one example. We also have a page that we recently updated is our EVs page. Finally, I know anybody who's used the EV page recently is gonna be like, wow, this looks really different and maybe more current. So, you know, we've got a little bit of additional information here. A lot of just like, we have QR codes on the EV chargers that take you to this page, which basically are like, here's how you report a problem. Here's how you get the app to pay for this thing. And then I have my favorite section is what to do when you're stuck on a charger. Please don't break it. But I want to figure out a better way to do this at some point. And then some pages that I know need some work. So there's just so much information in the recycling and waste management subsection. There are like 12 subpages over here. There's so many. There's also some of this information is duplicated on the PSDS website. There's so much in here. Lots of flyers that are embedded, lots of different things. This is definitely something that needs some updating. But there's also just so much information to share.
And one thing that we tried to do a few years ago with that is not duplicate what was on PSDS's website. Certainly not to conflict, but more so just have links to their website and not have the same stuff on the city's website.
Right. Which we, sorry.
And you can go back up to the top.
Sure.
Okay, is it possible, I like how on the main page you have multiple pictures. And people use pictures on websites, that's what they think. If it was possible, if you had like 4 pictures, rotating pictures, and they could click on each picture.
Yeah, like an embeddable link. So I don't think we can do that. We tried.
Really?
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
That's such a
I
common
know, it's
thing.
like you see, well, yeah, you see this and you're like, let me click on that to learn more about.
Cause that way you
recycling,
could
like,
get rid of a lot of the
Right,
words. They
exactly.
can say, oh, I need to go to battery. They see a battery, click on it,
Yeah.
and it goes down the battery.
We can ask IT.
Yeah, we can try to break it a little bit more.
Because that's what's the problem, is it's too much this.
Right, it's
And,
very.
and,
vertical.
and most websites, you have things across the top and you click and then that takes you there.
Yeah.
And pictures are really,
Well, I personally have myself often tried to click on the
Yeah.
pictures.
I
Because
did
I'm like,
today.
oh, let me figure out more, I wanna see the garden, click, nothing
Well,
happens.
it's the picture of the bike map towards, you know, I think.
Not in the carousel though, but yeah, I think it may be possible for us to do like, like picture buttons, kind of like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
page is that one on, can you remind me? Oh, it's not get over to it.
I think, biking. I think it's
The city of Mountain View has a great, I think might be a good,
Cool.
palette to look at.
City,
City of Mountain View.
Do you wanna
Well, they
share
should.
the URL?
that is the Silicon Valley.
And I can pull it up and on the screen here, and you can kind of give us a little guided tour.
It is Mountain View. It's Mountain View. .gov / our hyphen city. And you might be able to find it from there.
You can sign up, that's great. We gotta do that. Oh, nice.
So
Yeah, do you wanna give us a tour?
if you go to the sustainability section,
Is that under departments?
it's under, departments, city manager's office, sustainability. So it's under the city manager's office.
Oh, here we go.
We'll see how they have
Mhm.
some of those bars that are, or not bars, but
Oh, the box,
it's the cities with the boxes.
yeah.
The, see. You scroll down,
Oh,
see how
That's
it's got the simple news and events.
uh-huh. Yeah,
But also, I think in the bar to the left or the column to the left, it's similar to ours. So it has, people are different, right? So
sure.
someone would like that, but for me, I think a few of us is a simple transportation, looks like a bus.
Yeah.
And it takes you to that spot where you're not having to get frustrated with all the information that's there.
Right.
It appealed to me.
Yeah, so,
Visually, yeah, I
Yeah,
can see how,
visual, yeah.
visually, the icons, the medium.
It just seemed really clean.
The fonts are better, are easier.
true, yeah, they're a little bit clearer to read, yeah. And there's fewer sizes and it's just like a little more consistent, yeah, no, this is a really great example. Thank you
Just
for
start scrolling.
Oh,
that. Are there any other examples of like favorite websites that folks had that you wanna share?
I didn't put enough into this. I'm gonna-
No, it's great. Well, we're gonna, like I said, continue the conversation. This is the first one.
I really think we should have a vision statement on the top of our website, and if you wanna go to, this is not a city website, but if you go to ilsr.org. So that's like my to-go for community composting and everything, so having a vision statement and having that
Yeah.
top bar with something that represents us would be really good.
Sure, absolutely. No, I think that's
Oh,
a great.
that's what's so frustrating, is that our website doesn't look anything like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But it doesn't say, this is how we're gonna make a sustainable city.
Sure, yeah, no, that's a great point, like, you know, to the point, sort of like mission statement, or vision statement of just kind of like what we're about.
This is where, for community composting and everything, this is like somewhere I go for all the grants available in that area.
Great. That makes sense. Thanks a lot for this today. Commissioner Otter, do you have any other examples you want to share?
I have a lot of
Yeah.
not good ones.
Okay, cool. Let's
Ad
do
hoc
that.
committee, ad hoc committee.
Yeah. All right, what's our first bad example?
Alright, let's see. No, I don't know that I've saved in the book. Well, City of Berkeley is not. This one isn't too bad. I didn't save a lot of that one, sorry. I highlighted, so the three that I found, Contra Costa, I lived in the Bay Area, so I just, Contra Costa was okay, San Mateo was okay, but Mountain View was the best.
Okay.
City of San Francisco was horrible.
Okay.
So,
Do you want us to navigate over there and you want to tell us
if you
why?
want.
Yeah, sure.
I-
If we want to poison our eyes.
I love San Francisco, but.
Also, one issue is SEO a little bit, because this is This is a specific project, not necessarily like their sustainability board. Go to the planning department.
So this is that's not the one I was looking at. This one's actually better.
Okay.
Anyway, but. Go to my history.
Still a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the challenge is you're trying to dump as much information as
Right.
possible onto a page, so,
When I've been involved in website design, and you always, you would do as little words as possible. Thank you. You always do as little words as possible until they get to where they want to be, and then read.
right.
And also I overwrite, so always go back and slash what I wrote by a third and then by another third.
I like that principle though of like not that many words until you get to where you wanna go.
Right.
So people shouldn't have to read through a lot of words to figure out how to get the information they want, but then once they get there, then maybe they have the option
Right.
to choose as much information as they wanna read.
Yeah.
I can't find it.
Okay, no worries. Feel free to email it and we can send it in we can include it in the next one. So maybe now that we've kind of done let me just quickly, see if I can pull up. So we also use for kind of digital communication, there is a new website. That's gonna be going live very soon and, don't tell Amy I showed you this, cause I don't think I'm actually supposed to yet. I think I'm supposed to show you this in a week. This is a new kind of project-based website called Engage Palm Springs. So, this website, I believe, does have two-way, I believe we can receive comments and feedback. So for example, if we were to do a project in the future that was show us where you want shade structures. I think there is the functionality to be able to do that kind of thing here, which could be interesting for the future. But one thing that they are focusing on at first is project-based websites. So these are intended to be a little bit more templated ways to hear about particular ongoing efforts that are happening in the city. So you'll see things like timelines here. You'll see some kind of basic, again, kind of texty. But I think this is another one of the communication channels that we'll have access to. And then let me really quickly move over to the Palm Springs City Instagram. This is another, oh no, that's wrong. Well, Visit Palm Springs has a great Instagram, so I'm in terms of a good example, that's a pretty good one. But this is our city's Instagram page, so this is managed by Denise and Amy. This is kind of, it usually has to do with more overarching types of information, when are things closed, when are things open, we're doing a parade, that kind of stuff. We can put information through here, but we don't tend to do a steady drumbeat of posting here necessarily. We wouldn't do a post a week about composting, for example. We would do one post. So I think that's just kind of how the tone has been used in the past. So that's it's a similar posture that we use on Nextdoor and Twitter as well. This is just the easiest to see. And yeah, so maybe now we've kind of done a quick tour. I'm going to take us back over to our guiding questions a little bit, and maybe we'll just spend a couple minutes going through these. So I'm curious to hear, and thanks Commissioner Ratner for showing a good example, which I think has helped us crystallize a lot of things in terms of how we get people around the site. That's definitely something that I'm hearing is something we can focus on in the short term, is how do we just get people moving more efficiently through the site. So that's something we can definitely look at and try to incorporate some of those, see what we can bring and what buttons we might be able to make clickable. So what kinds of information have you in the past or might you look for on the city's sustainability website? Does anybody want to share anything that you've looked for? Waste, yeah. What about waste? How to recycle, what to
Yeah,
recycle?
lots of, this is PSDS and us at the same time, what to do with electronic waste, what is electronic waste? I mean, those are sort of things where you ideally have an e-waste spot, and then you have a drop down menu is okay. What do I do with computer disk?
Sure.
That sort of stuff.
So help
I mean, I've
kind of
been
answer questions.
cleaning out an estate, so that's the only thing I can think of is waste right now.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's a big category. I would imagine that's probably what a lot of people are coming to our site for. That's great.
But some of those things, there really aren't answers to.
Oh, right, that's another problem. Yeah, it's an unanswerable question.
And I think a lot of work has to be done in terms of, figuring out what to do with certain types of electronic waste or
Right.
CD cases. You have used as an example before. So,
Yeah.
some of the, I think it's easier to focus on what goes in the blue bins, but then some of these other types of things, it's not clear just what to do with them, and there may not be a solution within the city.
But that's actually our website design approach, is to have a statement somewhere that's, when you get to the point where you say, there's no solution to this, so just put it in the garbage, in the trash. But if you preface that with a nice little rainbow that says, we're a sustainable city, do as much as you can, but sometimes we can't, and so, yeah. I mean, that's a language and design.
The kind of embedding general principles that help people understand kind of how to answer those questions, and that some questions may not be answerable, so that's something that can also be done. Any other?
Yeah, kind of tagging on to that, when it is also seeing a graph or something of, this is why we're doing it, because composting X does a percentage of
Yes.
diversion from landfill, and why it's doing, why we're pushing these things in the city. And also showing we're doing this and this is what we've done, and we've reached a certain goal, or we need to get to this goal, we need to work harder. Same water conservation, energy efficiency in our homes, along with waste, all those things I think can tie in. That's what I look for, is like, where are we at, why are we doing this? And
Yeah.
how do we improve?
Yeah, no, thanks for bringing that up. Has anyone else looked to our website for progress reporting?
For what?
Progress reporting, like how we're doing?
No.
Is that because you haven't? Like, not because you haven't wanted to know, but I'm trying to figure out, is it because you know it isn't there? Or is it because you haven't asked the question in that way? Like, I guess maybe those are kind of the same. Okay, so Eric says he knows it isn't there.
After looking at the first page and so many words, I don't wanna click on anything.
Okay, that's fair, yeah. Very fair.
Okay, I find that there's lots of information that it would be nice to be able to find quickly.
Mhm.
And I probably even go back and look at it again because I forget it. But the website is just so uninviting
Fair.
that I never think to go look at something. I'll go search for it on my computer to see, didn't so-and-so, didn't LP say something about that a week ago? Rather than try to find it on the website.
Sure, fair. And by uninviting, you mean mostly just like not navigable or like not intuitive feeling?
It's just the number of layers you have to go through. The physical structure, as Kathy mentioned, the font, the
Yeah,
colors,
sure.
you know,
Yeah, fair.
there's nothing light, there's nothing sustainable about it.
Understandable.
LP, do you mind going to your website from the EPA, adding to what you said, we need to have a progress report or something? I think it's epa.gov/energy/greenhouse gases. Yes.
Is it greenhouse gas? It's like hyphenated or anything?
Let me see, it's not. You can just Google EPA GHG gas calculator, let's see.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah. This one?
Yeah. Scroll down. And next to the amount, scroll up a little bit. Yeah, in the empty box, type in 500 or something. And convert data.
You need to put in.
Or go for emission data, up there on step one, go for emission data. And now, in the first box, type in carbon X, 500. And scroll down and go to convert data, scroll down a little bit. Convert data. That's how it shows, and I think once we have the information, the progress report we are looking for. I really like the green ones because it tells us this is what we use for composting and we have to use this one in terms of showing data. How much material we are diverting, we just have that number and it will show us how many acres of forest has to be planted, or we, balanced it by composting 100,000 pounds of material.
Sure. Yeah, so figuring out good ways to show equivalences on progress.
I think this will be really good because going forward, all of our landscaping material is being diverted from the city as part of the SP 1383. And if we don't know those numbers, and personally, I would like to see if I go to how sustainable the city is, I wanna see these numbers. It's like, hey, our city is generating this much of landscape material and it's going into a composting facility, and this is how much it's converting into.
Sure, that's great.
Kind of tagging on, sorry.
Go ahead.
The DCE and showing the renewable energy and even how the pricing of that is getting better.
Yeah.
It promotes people to want to not opt out.
Sure, yeah, totally. No, figuring out how we show data that convinces people to stay with us on the journey.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that. So Juliet is our timekeeper for tonight and has let me know that we have to, if we want to end by 8 o'clock, we need to wrap this discussion up in about 5 minutes or so. So I want to just kind of, so thank you, Juliet, for getting everybody out of here, not super late. So I want to kind of jump to see, I think, because we've talked a lot about how easy or hard is it to find what you're looking for on this website. It's hard. Where else would you go for this information? We've kind of shown a few different examples there. Anything else in terms of information that you have looked for on the website that you want to look for that you find useful on the website currently? Like, are there anything good about it that we should?
I think we could go out after some low hanging fruit. I spent some time this afternoon going through the website. And there was a section that talked about events for Earth Day. And it gave dates that things were gonna happen. Well, those were in 2021.
Yeah.
And there was also in 2021, we had a week where it was sprinkler check week. And that's still there.
Yeah, sorry.
So and there's a lot of words that went along with those as well, but I think maybe we could take the scissors to some of those pages right now.
Yeah.
Before we go much further with figuring out what needs to be there.
So we kind of trim the fat from the
Right.
website, see what's left, and then we can go from there. Yeah, I think that's interesting.
I did notice there were changes to the website, so I appreciate the effort. I know it's hard. I have used the website multiple times for trying to figure out, is this compostable? Does it, certain countries do different things,
Right.
certain states, certain cities, so I'm always kind of mindful of going to and I find the information, so.
Sure.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, so that-
Eventually you find
Yeah,
it,
no, it's great.
but you find it.
No, yeah, it was good.
Cool, excellent.
I think we should have an archive folder, just because Roy said we are still finding articles, stuff from 2021. Because we don't have a strong social media presence, all of our stuff is either in, city archives, but if Sustainability Commission has its own archive and we can see, hey, what did we do for 2022, 2023?
Sure.
And making sure like we have an archive folder will be really helpful.
Well, I saw that actually on the Mountain View page that you pointed out, they actually had an archive section, so that's something we can take a look and see how they're archiving those things, yeah, because somebody may wanna know that we had sprinkler check week and they might wanna know what we did at it.
And that may be in files that you inherited from predecessors as well. I probably have files with most of them.
Sure.
Is it okay for us to have going forward, I mean, new ordinances coming for food recovery and everything, is it okay for our website to have businesses that are coordinating with the Sustainability Commission or doing stuff that's helping us to get some goals done, like a sustainable business? Can we have
Yeah,
that
we can,
list?
so we can highlight, so generally speaking, my approach to things like that has been like, if we have a sort of set of consistent criteria that would apply, and so anybody who wants to be featured on our website, if they do ABC thing, they have equal right to be featured on our website, or, so as long as we're not like endorsing something or making, having it be relatively consistent why we might highlight someone or give them an award or distinction or something, then I think that's generally pretty okay. The one area where I sometimes shy away from things like that is if it's too time sensitive, kind of to Roy's point, that we don't end up with a bunch of like old content that 6 months from now, we're like, oh no, remember that thing we were gonna update every month? Like, people don't necessarily revisit our website every month to like look for news. So I think, let's revisit that idea when we have some things that we might want to highlight, like for edible food recovery, and let's look at across our different platforms. Maybe that's a good fit for the Engage Palm Springs page, for example, the new page. So I think we'll have to kind of,
We don't put the transportation survey on Engage Palm Springs.
yes, I think we're gonna put it on Engage Palm Springs. It's gonna be good.
Okay.
Any other, so we'll take all of this feedback, thank you, I think we're gonna kind of follow, like the sort of trimming down approach, we'll look to see what we can chop out, we'll start to do some minimization and play around with a couple of other functions. And then maybe we'll bring back some like specific ideas and specific thoughts to some future meetings and go from there, unless there are different requests from commissioners on how we wanna take this conversation. Okay?
I think we'll continue it.
Yes, we shall. Great. I appreciate everyone's collaborative approach to looking at the website. Thanks everyone for doing some poking around and sharing some feedback with us and some suggestions. So yeah, are we okay to move to the?
Yes. I believe so.
Okay, great. Excellent. So we'll keep moving right along and we'll keep talking about things we did on the computer. And we're going to talk about the prioritization exercise. So I want to talk about this in two ways today. So one is to review just the results, look at the numbers. But before we do that, I want to take a minute to have commissioners reflect on the exercise itself. You know, we haven't really done something like this before. Want to hear from commissioners both. You know, I know doing it on Zoom was a little bit clunky. I had a really beautiful plan for how this is going to work, and it turned out you could have multiple people using the same board of this one software we were going to use. And so it ruined my beautiful plan. But you know, so obviously if we were to do this in the future, we wouldn't do it in exactly the same way because we're also in person now. But any thoughts on you know, things that felt useful about this, things that were challenging, things that you might want to do again? You know, do we want to revisit aspects of this? Any reflections or thoughts on the exercise itself? Commissioner Barrett, you mentioned that you had some feedback you wanted to share, but if anybody else has, do you want to go ahead?
Say that one more time.
You had mentioned that you wanted to share some thoughts on.
Oh,
kind
it's
of
just,
the
I found the software awkward. I couldn't do some of the things the others could do, and I don't know why.
I couldn't either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, I think it's a generally good idea, but it's, I'm not sure. I'm not wild about the 2-hour meetings either, so that's part of the problem, that's why I'm standing.
Yeah, sure.
I think because of the topics that they had a lot of words too.
Mhm.
And I wasn't sure if I was committing for something that
Oh, sure.
it was for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Or,
Understandable.
they're interesting things, but I'm not sure how deeply you were expecting us to embrace.
Sure, like an
square
identity of
box.
square,
Yes.
yeah, sure, that's fair. And I think really, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
Sorry, just kind of tagging.
Yeah.
I like the idea of throwing stuff against the wall and I can see where you'd be confused as like, okay, we're doing this, but just getting that whole kind of a, not really like a system thinking process, but it's like, what are we gonna do? Because we're all pretty new and trying to figure out, we're starting anew, right?
Yeah.
I think in person it would have been a better experience.
Right.
But I would be open, I like this idea of, let's get it down and then you take a step back and kind of review it going, is this something we want to focus on?
Sure. Or like, are we surprised by
Right.
anything that comes up or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think definitely my intent was, I know some of you all pretty well, but a lot of you I don't know at all. And even those of you I know, I don't know everything you're interested in, so. And I'm sure you all could probably say the same about each other, but I understand the sort of the hesitation of just like, if I put my name on this, am I committing to a subcommittee or a project on this? Which is fair, and I think
I mean, I knew that wasn't exactly what was going to
Sure,
happen,
but-
but it did narrow my.
Sure,
my
sure.
choices.
Yeah, and I think different people probably had different approaches toward like, let me just put my name on everything I'm interested in, and some people I think were pretty like, no, I'm gonna kind of zero in on one or two things, so I appreciate that.
I think the three of us on this end were all in the same meeting of 1 PS where we had someone guide us through thing when we were at the temple for the retreat. And remember the woman who
Oh, yeah.
worked, who, we
Suzanne.
just put words on the board and then we talked and shuffled them around, and it actually felt like a productive process. And this is a variation on that. So I'm not totally anti that sort of thing, it's just that
Mhm. No, it's helpful feedback. So I think, thinking about using a tool kind of to Commissioner Rotner's point, of sometimes we need to just get it all out and then step back. And so continuing to iterate on the way in which we do that in this meeting, and also in the subcommittees as well, we can do that.
And I have a comment about that too. I think there needs to be some balance between doing this in the commission at large versus doing it in the subcommittees. And I think I've already, talked about in the climate action subcommittee that we probably reduce some of this. That's just really focused on the topics of that subcommittee. But we still need to be careful about what we do in subcommittees and making sure it's communicated to the commission at large and making sure the commissioners have ability to comment and so forth. So I think we're still kind of finding our way through operating subcommittees, although I was a big advocate of them because of the fact that the waste reductions subcommittee was quite effective in the past.
Okay, so I think maybe I'll keep us moving a little bit just to kind of keep us honest on time. I really appreciate that feedback. So thanks everybody for sharing that. So next time we do an exercise like this, we'll be able to kind of, improve and continue to figure out how best to get this kind of feedback.
And it was
yeah.
right at the beginning of, my first meeting.
Sure, yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot of, setting the stage.
Sure, yeah, that's fair. And we can also do the same exercise again in a month if we want, and just kind of look and we can compare. So basically, what you'll see that we've done here, we haven't put anybody's names on anything here. We're kind of just putting some things in order. And so I want to talk through how our team is interpreting this. But definitely want to hear the commissioner's feedback. So you'll see here the ranking of the topics just based on that initial sort of straw poll. One of the brackets are intended to indicate where the votes were tied. It was really annoying to make the numbers do 3, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, whatever on this thing. So I just did that, but I didn't want to imply that somehow renewable energy, local generation was more important than transportation, walking, biking, rolling. That's why I did that. So the number one thing that we took out of this by looking and seeing water use reduction and water conservation at the top with 6 people who had indicated interest, this looks to me, and this is up to the commissioners to decide, this looks to me like a subcommittee potentially, because we have a lot of interest here. There are the evolving state rules. It is a different topic. It could be covered under the waste reduction subcommittee, but that one also is at its cap in terms of how many members can be accepted. So if somebody new wanted to get involved in that conversation, we don't have the ability to rotate people in on that. And there's probably going to be a lot of work that the commission or the committee or the staff are going to want to do on this topic this year. So there's also, we'll come in a minute to also the groups that people can kind of be assigned to and report back on. So there's also a world in which just 1 or 2 people stay on top of DWA proceedings and bring those back to the commission. But I feel like there's enough that the city is going to want to do in this space separate from DWA that it could provide enough material for a new subcommittee for the people who are interested in this to want to do that. So that was kind of my takeaway from this, as opposed to, for example, item number 2 on transportation and public transit, which a lot of people are really interested in, but there's not as much that we currently have the abilities to do or that we've identified is within the city's scope of action. So that almost seems to me more like something we try to embed that in our existing subcommittees and make sure we have some people plugged in on what's going on with Sunline. Until maybe we do the transportation survey, maybe we get some interesting data there. Maybe that prompts us to think a little bit differently, and maybe we want to have an ad hoc couple of meetings or something about that at that time. But I don't see as much of a work program based on what's in our ability to act as I would potentially for the water topic. The rest of these things, kind of up to the commissioners. All of, we put them on the topics to choose from list because it's stuff we're working on. These are things that either can be highlighted within the existing subcommittees, or we can make sure to bring to the table when opportunities arise in the commission. And people are welcome to continue to request programs around that or projects. But that's kind of really the main takeaway that we had here was okay, so everybody wants to talk about water. So we should probably figure out a good way for everybody to talk about water. Does anyone else have any feedback on this?
And just, I think the 3 transportation things should be lumped into one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh, you were.
Yeah, that's right.
I was gonna pull that
Yeah.
together because if you go back my EG is on all three of those,
Yep.
and it's 2,
Mhm.
10, and action planning. It's
Mhm.
all on all of those.
Right.
And then I sat in a council meeting and some things changed and
Uh-huh,
I was like,
yeah. Sure.
recently with the vehicles and things
Oh,
like that.
oh, yeah.
Oh, we could have
Mhm. Just a
timing,
little bit harder there.
but just was shot.
I know, the timing on that one, I was just like, oh, the Dodge Durangos.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was something also, I think, when the climate action committee in the first meeting, which I think was before everyone had officially been appointed, so the first partial meeting we had of the new the new commission. Commissioner Clark brought up that, transportation would probably be a major component of the climate action subcommittee. And so I think maybe, especially once we get some additional data, from the survey, that we can potentially revisit also, and I wanna flip quickly to the tactics ranking, which is much more, I think there's a lot more commonality here. One of the suggestions that Christian had was, okay, well, once we have the transportation data, let's take all the people who were really interested in data collection and analysis, do an ad hoc meeting of like, let's look at the transportation data together, and then you kind of chew on that and then decide what you wanna do from there. Maybe that goes just fully into the subcommittee, you know, whatever, I don't know. But that's one way we can kind of think about it, but I agree that with both of you, that maybe lumping transportation seems logical. Was there a specific recommendation of something you wanted to do with that, Commissioner?
Well, I think that's probably going to be part of our ongoing process in the subcommittee. Right now, we're just getting everybody up to speed on what happened in the past and where we need to go. And then one of the next steps is looking at what specific things can we start working on, particularly with in conjunction with other organizations that might be doing things. So I think it'll just start to take shape over the next few months as we learn more.
Commissioner.
Yes, I don't think that we have a lot that we can do about water. I mean, because it comes from DWA and.
Well, I mean, there's like turf conversion projects, sorry.
Yeah, let me finish it.
Sure.
But I actually rank water fairly high because we need to change how people think about Palm Springs. And so we need to have more people feel the same way I do when we're driving by on Sunrise and we see the water flowing into the street, you know, it's like, no, this has got to stop. You know, we need to, and it's a very visible thing. So if we can get everyone thinking about their water use and where it is and thinking about even saying reporting when it's being wasted and whatever else, then that's part of creating a mindset that's about sustainability, even though water is actually not the major issue of sustainability. But I think water is a good way to promote us and to promote things.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, kind of in the same way that we spend a lot of time talking about waste, even though it's not the major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, but it's an important mindset change and it's an important way to kind of get people involved in sustainability work.
And I think your last point is excellent, at getting people involved, getting people interested, getting them to notice things.
Personal responsibility.
I don't think many people in our city know that we have an aquifer.
Yeah.
I asked 10 people and only 2 people said they know there is an aquifer. Whereas for me, water, I'm also the one who voted on that water use reduction and water conservation because my grandparents has to walk 2 miles one way to get water. And for me, that's like, no, we see it all the time, but we don't understand. I'm also talking to DWA because as per California Pumping Code, having a laundry to lawn gray water system is completely illegal with some changes. And there are cities that are promoting that and giving rebates. And why are we not doing it in the desert, especially when we can do that? So that's a question for me. It's like, that kills me a lot. And I see that water running initially when I came to US, I did not realize when water is running on the street and there is no leak, that somebody emptying their pool for cleaning purposes. And that shocked me. It's like, in my street, every 2 days I see water coming out. So somebody is emptying their whole swimming pool. And I'm like, so I kind of went through a rabbit hole looking for solutions. With if city has some kind, I probably will have a subcommittee, I will stop here. You can convert your salt or chlorine pool into a natural pond with less than $3,000 if you are doing a renovation project. And that will promote more conservation, more wildlife, more biodiversity, all of those things included. So those are the things I would like to talk specifically about water conservation.
Any other reactions to this? Okay, I'm gonna flip quickly to the tactics. I don't actually think we need to spend that much time on this, just kind of so people knew where everybody's heading out. We've got a lot of, there's also a few things here that I think are related to each other, like community events, engagement, marketing, strategic planning. A lot of these things are related, but good to know that, everybody likes all this stuff because we, do a lot of this. So that's great. It's good to take away. Finally, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make one comment on tactics, and it's not there. And it's related to what we talked about earlier. The city council has said sustainability will be embedded, I forgot what word they used, in every decision we make. Well, it's not. And I think one of the biggest things that we can do is like with the drive-through coffee shop is when things come up, speak to the city council. We can talk about it in the commission, but speak to the city council. And, ultimately they should have a box that needs to be checked. Did we consider sustainability when we discuss this? And they need to know what it means to consider sustainability. It's not just some broad term, but it needs to be more specific, related to each and every topic that they talk about. So I think, in my opinion, I've kind of evolved into, that seems to be one of our biggest missions right now in terms of communicating with the city council and making sure that they truly understand what's in the climate action roadmap, they truly understand what's going on with climate change, and that they seriously consider implications of their decisions relating to sustainability.
Thank you. Yeah, advocacy as a major tactic here. I agree. That makes sense. So we had Commissioner Barrett next, and then
Just very quick, and from what Roy said, yeah, I think we actually should put that somehow in our agenda somehow, maybe get a subcommittee that does it, because I don't have time to read the city council's everything,
Yeah.
and just something that we could be alerting ourselves, okay, we need to go speak today.
I guess I would just challenge everybody, anything you read, like I learned about the coffee shop in the Palm Springs Post.
Yeah.
And anything you read, think about the implications. Another example is, and I'm taking up too much time, but I'm kind of passionate about it. Another example is that there've been meetings about pickleball courts in Demuth Park. And, there's some comment about, well, there needs to be more parking if there's more pickleball courts. Well, the opposite should be true.
Yeah.
Well, how do we get people to the pickleball courts without cars? And particularly if they play pickleball, they're probably more amenable to walking and riding bikes. So that's the message that should be, that should be brought to hearings, city council members, whatever. I guess I'm trying to do that, and I would challenge everybody to think the same way and bring it back to the commission, bring it back to the subcommittees.
Really good point.
Just tagging along those, your comments, like, maybe we should have a call to action button on our website. If we need to do something like this, we can even ask the public to support us, like, regarding the drive-throughs, maybe most of the people in the Palm Springs are thinking that way, and we don't know, maybe they don't know, they can come and talk, give a public comment. Is that something that we can do? Hey, these are the items that we call for action. So join us.
So I think the best way to do that is through putting them on the agenda of this commission. Because there's the bit of separation that happens between, like, for example, staff and the council. So I think that's where we tend to be a little bit outside of the kind of, like, I call that politics, right? Like, that's what it is, trying to get people on your side to make a decision. And so we as staff tend to be intentionally a little bit separated from that. And so we present the policy analysis, we present the recommendations. Obviously, there's embedded politics and all of that, right? But I think where you do that is by sort of inviting public comment to this commission, and publicizing via the agendas, via the, whatever you all submit for inclusion in the packet, like that's kind of how I would start personally, but would be my recommendation. Any other technical thoughts? Thank you, Dr. Feedback.
Okay,
Okay,
let's,
so we'll wrap up really quickly here by just, this is a list, this is also in your packet, you don't need to like memorize it right now. The one thing that I did add here that's not in the packet is the Sunline meeting date, which is generally the fourth Wednesday of every month, except November, December, they don't do a November meeting and they do a meeting the first week of December. So their next meeting will be December 6th. So I guess it's kind of to the commissioners to decide, do we want to propose any new subcommittees today? Does anyone want to sort of assign themselves to be the representative to give feedback from some of these meetings? Because I think in terms of trying to tackle some of these additional topics, we do have our two existing subcommittees, which I think are getting, they're picking back up the pace or getting, reestablishing and building out programs of work. If everybody feels like we're good with those, then great. I mean, obviously on our side, we have no skin in this game, so it's kind of whatever you all think is best for moving forward.
I would not list one PS as a city commission.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'll move it, sorry.
And
I meant more, because I think of it as similar to like our other city bodies. So basically what I was trying to say is like city government, city of Palm Springs operated things, or not operated, but city of Palm Springs affiliated things, as opposed to like Desert Water, which is.
So it'd be community.
Yeah, I'll put it as community, I'll separate that out.
And there are several things up there that we have already on a list for the climate action subcommittee to get people to talk about. That's Sunline, possibly DCE, CBAG, and the airport. So we may, get information from them through that means, having them come to the subcommittee meeting.
So I would be interested to see, I think there's space to explore having a separate water subcommittee. I don't know, I haven't been to the Scour meetings yet, but I think there's a lot there that we could focus on. Just generally speaking, there's turf conversion, but I think there's a lot more that we could be approaching. I'd like to maybe go to the meeting and talk with my fellow commissioners and see what their thoughts are on how that goes. But I think some focus needs to be done on it, as well as the building and energy. But that's my 2 cents.
Sure, yeah, that makes sense. Any other commissioners wanna add on to that, or?
And then just one example is the sprinkler check week. That's something that's sprinkler check week or irrigation check week.
yeah, that's true.
That's something that such a subcommittee could get involved with.
So Commissioner, I couldn't quite tell from your suggestion whether you would like to move forward with trying to establish that today. Do we want to take another month to kind of like do some research and thinking about it as a group? Like, where do you all go?
Let's talk about it. I'm sorry.
I would be open to having some more conversation, and I thought my feelings, maybe the Scour is a good place to talk about it, just rattle through some ideas that I have that with other folks. Since this is my first go around, I'm still learning, so.
Sure.
I think that since Roy is also on in Scour, we could have the initial discussion there and figure out where to sit it and how and where to place it.
Yeah, and if it makes sense, then it.
Sure, okay, so then that's something we can bring back to the next commission, kind of based on Bill's thoughts on where it could sit, and then that way, at the next commission meeting, anybody who's not part of Scour also has an opportunity to weigh in if they want, or hear back the recommendations.
Yeah, I'm not saying putting it under Scour.
Yeah,
just
no,
saying
yeah,
use the
yeah,
Scour
use
just
it as
to
a,
have the
yeah, no,
conversation.
that's why, I agree, that makes sense. Okay. Any other topics that people want to treat in the same manner as kind of just like, maybe germinating idea of what we want to do with it? I know you mentioned buildings and energy efficiency as well.
Yeah.
Which may be more, that's definitely something I know as staff, we're gonna have a lot of stuff we want to work on this year about as well. I would say starting in January, February, you probably have time for, or like enough stuff for an agenda, not today, but, coming up soon.
And that could get into climate action
Yeah,
as well. I think we're focusing on transportation because that's the biggest hitter. But if you look at public and municipal buildings, they account for 40% of the GHG emissions.
For the city, not for the whole city, but for the city government.
For the whole city, I think.
For the whole, well, not, I think what I heard you say is municipal buildings account for 40% of the city
No,
emissions, which it doesn't.
No,
But yeah,
res-
yes,
residential.
that's true, residential, commercial is about 40%,
It's
yeah,
about
that's right.
40%.
Right. Sorry, I misinterpreted what you said, I was
Well,
just
I
like,
probably said
it's
it
not
wrong.
that bad. It's not great though, but yeah, but it is of the city's emission portfolio, it is about 40% of the city's emission portfolio as
Right.
well.
Do we have any ordinance or anything with the fire department where they check the annually or biannually check the fire alarms in the houses?
No.
That's something I would really like to take on or see if that falls under our wing, because I attended a meeting where they say most of the time, when fire accidents happens, the alarms won't go off because people don't change batteries in them and they leave it there. So I'm thinking of going to the fire chief and get some information and see if that's something like the sprinkler leak. Do we wanna do a fire alarm check or something for the safety of the houses? Because we are gonna talk about building efficiencies. And fire should be included in that, especially for us, with the wildfires coming closer and closer. So that's something to think.
Yeah, my HOA did that several years ago, and I think there's some private companies that can come out
Yeah.
and,
Red Cross.
right.
Yeah, let's, let us know what you find out from the fire chief as well on any programs that they may be thinking about, and then maybe that's something we can add to a future agenda.
I think maybe the American Red Cross or someone, I know there's some other
Emergency.
nonprofit that is involved in that.
Yeah, Red Cross and then our emergency management department also does something.
Right,
They don't,
the CERT.
yeah, there's not like a commission for that though, so it's, yeah, so I think I'm not sure if it doesn't not fall under what we do, to answer your question. Does anyone want to assign themselves to one of these regular meetings? Commissioner?
Water.
Okay, great. I hope you like 8 AM, first and third Tuesday of every month. So,
I have a dog that gets me up.
there you go. Okay, so you're up and rolling.
I'm about to apologize. Which one? The water. Oh, water, okay.
And also more than one person can go to these, we're attending as members of the public here. You're not like appointed to be a member of this, so. But it's good to know that we have a joint person in Commissioner Rotner who will definitely be going. I saw Don's in person.
We say I'm currently a representative to Desert Community.
Oh, right, that's true, yeah. So Don is an official representative because they have a community advisory committee, so.
Yeah, which right now has one person.
Which right now has one member, which is Commissioner Barrett. But they may, well, we've had more than one commissioner
We've had
on it
more
in
than
the
one,
past.
yeah, and right now it's mainly discussions that are related actually mostly to economics of energy, but.
When does the Parks Commission meet?
Parks is fourth Monday of every month.
Do you know the time?
All of those are at 5:30.
Oh, okay. Duh,
Oh gosh, yeah, well, it's a little confusing, yeah. But yeah, those are all at
too
5:30.
many words.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Yeah, I strongly think we should have
yeah.
someone in parks.
Yeah.
Well, my neighborhood is in Sunrise.
Oh,
Sunrise Park is in my neighborhood, plus I go there 4 or 5 times a week, so
great.
I could do that.
Okay, cool. So Commissioner Khan will do parks. Great.
LP,
Yes.
airport.
Yeah. Cool.
You do that.
Perfect. Excellent. Very good.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Commissioner Graham will be at the airport.
I will at the airport, but I need for you to send me your contact to the airport.
Oh, sure.
And I
Yeah.
don't remember who that is.
Yes, there's a
I
few.
know that there's somebody.
The commissioner has my name.
Okay, well.
Or the director. Yeah.
Director.
Barrett. Yeah.
Is that who?
Well,
No,
we
it-
work with a number of different.
Yeah,
people
there's
there, So
not-
I'll send you a
there's-
couple.
One thing I can suggest to Bernard, and maybe we can talk offline, is I've had conversations with Paul Ortega in the past. He's the president of the DWA board. And last spring, he was talking about being interested in plugging in more to the commission. He was here with Ashley
Right.
for that one meeting that.
Yeah.
But you may want to talk to him offline before doing that, like, if you don't know him, I can like write an email introduction.
No, only from that meeting.
But, it might work both ways, he might wanna get more involved as well.
Great, thank you.
Any other things on here that people want to either assign themselves to or say, this sounds really important, but I don't want to be the person to do it? Okay, hearing none and seeing where we are in our.
Actually,
Oh,
sorry,
yeah, go
just
ahead.
one
Yeah,
quick,
sure,
is
go
the
for it.
planning commission.
Yes,
I don't, I'd be willing to engage on that, because I think it's important, like, if, as things come up, just highlighting it, if someone's there on a regular basis, I don't know. Is it the second?
second, and I was gonna say, you picked the two that meet twice a month.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy.
So that's the only thing I'm on the fence about.
Yeah, sure.
is, doing both, but
Yeah.
I think just for the commissioners, I think that's one that's pretty important to.
Yeah.
To have a fun, just so we're communicating sustainability issues.
That what? What commission?
The
Planning,
planning commission.
Planning, okay.
that's all, you first and then Commissioner Walker.
And I've had discussions with one of the members of the planning commission who's quite sympathetic to sustainability issues. So it might be helpful to get more engaged with that.
Okay.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, cool. Well then, Commissioner Rotner, let us know how it goes, keeping tabs on all of those. We can revisit at the next meeting and you can be like, you can throw a Hail Mary out and we can, because we also do have 3 members who aren't here tonight, so maybe one of them might be interested in looking in on one of those as well. Great, okay, cool. So I think that we did what we came here to do. Does anyone have anything else they want to talk about on this particular issue before we move to the closing items on our agenda? Okay, great. Having thoroughly exhausted everyone, let's turn now to our subcommittee reports. Do we want to do Scour first?
Scour is first, and we're productive, but I've written everything down, and I think the best thing is actually just to read the report. The format we're using is a report that shows all the topics and actually divides it up, some amongst, okay, where we need some information, need information from the department, where else, so, there's plenty there.
Likewise, with the climate action subcommittee, there's a report in the agenda packet. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. At the last meeting, we did go through the history of what was done with regard to the climate action roadmap and some of the priorities that the city had set, and we also talked about activities that we might get involved with other organizations in the near term to get some synergy. One of the things I just wanted to emphasize, we didn't get to it at the last meeting on November 8th, but I think LP probably set this out way back when she was doing orientation for the commission for new commissioners, but there's a climate change vulnerability analysis that was performed as part of the development of the update of the general plan. And unlike, it's not fighting climate change like the priorities that we've been talking about, reducing GHG emissions, but it's addressing adaptation and resilience to climate change, accepting the fact that it's going to occur. How can we adapt? How can we get more resilience? And like shade is one example of that. If there's more shade structures, more trees, then it's going to be cooler in places. It may help people adapt to the other temperatures. So we'll be talking about that at the next meeting.
Any questions or feedback for the commissioners? Thank you both for preparing the reports and for giving the reports. Okay, so we'll move into our last, do you want to move us into the last one?
I'll do it. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so this is where you get to have 2 minutes to make a comment. You don't have to make a comment, don't feel required to, but make a comment as to what you see as upcoming agenda that we need to be addressing, and particularly for next month.
May I share from Desert Community Energy and, so DCE and Inland Regional Energy Network have, expressed interest in providing a presentation to the
I guess
commission.
I'm not hearing.
Desert Community Energy and the Inland Regional Energy Network have expressed interest in providing a presentation to the next meeting, to the commissioners, if they would like to learn more about those two organizations. So I'll include that in the, the commissioners can decide, but,
Not necessarily soon, next month or soon. Not necessarily next month.
well, they had specifically said they can come next month, but it can also be or soon. It's up to you.
Okay. All right, you can self-nominate yourself to speak.
I nominate to speak for 2 minutes.
Okay.
Anybody here familiar with Safe Growth SEPSET, which is crime prevented through environmental design? I went through the program with the police department, city code, and city planning from February to March. And we broke down into the different groups of people and we took projects on in different parts of the city. The wash, the industrial area, when we did an assessment of all the marijuana shops,
Mhm.
the retail shops. There's another one, they did the parking garage. What they did what we learned in those programs was safe growth for the community, how the city is actually planning projects and what's happening. And also having the city police department be involved in that, also in getting their feedback of what's going on with crime. We did all the crime data for all those projects, found it extremely interesting. In fact, it was a certificate program, so I have one. And I actually used it on the property where I presently work. And people come and they go, oh, this is interesting. I would invite each and every one of you to come to the property and I'll show you and explain to you how we did that. Specifically, planning department had a lot to do in the future. Do with this in the future, what they will actually do. And it'll be something that planning department, I want to say in the future, looks at safe growth and this program and how it worked. Other cities are now doing it also. And I'm finding it extremely interesting. We've also are working on bringing that safe growth and I want to say not commission, an organization here to Palm Springs for a convention next year. I'll get more data on that later, but this is also sustainability is also very much involved in that. I would love to give you guys as much information, so come see me and I'll share it with you.
Let me cheat and go ahead because I'm gonna come off of him. I went to the Safe Growth presentation
Oh, you were there.
and that was in
Yeah.
police training center.
I was there.
And it was phenomenal in terms of what they plan and how it organized the neighborhood, how it helped getting neighborhoods and everyone else together, thinking about how to redo areas. It was mainly about crime is what I was seeing,
Mhm.
but I think there's some space for us to be in there in some ways, shape and
Exactly.
forms. That's takes care of my 2 minutes. Okay, I'll stop.
You know, I'm gonna have something to say. One other item that I think needs to be brought up to the city council when this particular topic is on their agenda. Has to do with food trucks. There's been a lot of discussion about having, allowing food trucks in places in the city. And the specific thing that was mentioned to me is that they should not be allowed to use diesel generators to generate electricity to operate. This is something that I was going to bring up for this meeting, and it turns out they probably won't talk about that until January or February. So it's something that probably can be talked about in the climate action subcommittee first. But I may propose it to be on the agenda for this commission meeting sometime in the future. Perhaps we can do the same kind of thing, is discuss it and vote on whether or not we want to make a public comment. In the meantime, I think I need to do a little bit more research on that, in terms of what other cities may be doing and so forth, but just a potential that's something to make a comment on to the city council in the future.
So I had a question about, and I'm not sure if this is something we do this year, but previous commission members had worked on night sky ordinances and work, and had approached me to wanting to continue some of the work that they had done. So, you know, when you finish your tenure, you're kind of done. So I don't know if we bring that up again at some point to discuss the kind of the goals that they were. I think it's an important thing, but I'm not sure if we have the bandwidth now to kind of add that to all what we're doing now, but maybe something in the future.
I would say commissioners are welcome to request a report back on the progress of the dark sky ordinance, and we'd be, I think we could bring it to this commission, whenever you all wanna kind of hear about it. I will admit that it hasn't been something that we've worked on extensively as this group that you'll see before you, but happy to bring that back and then the commission can decide where to go.
And I have a lot of information from the past. We discussed it in several of the commission meetings, and there were proposed changes to ordinances and so forth, and so I can probably fill in some stuff too.
Yeah, and my understanding is that the city's out of compliance with some of the state. I'm not fully sure, but just what I've read, Rob McCann, who's on the commission, gave me some information. So if we can get there or work to achieve some of the goals that they were trying to achieve, I think they're worthwhile. It's one of the reasons why I live in Palm Springs.
And that's, and I think that's accurate. What I can do is I can probably find a couple of agenda packets from past meetings that summarize where we were. I could probably find them pretty quickly.
Thank you.
I think that has a lot to do also with climate, because the dust is the thing that I notice. We bought, my husband and I bought our home in 1982. You could walk around with your Sky Night little app and just, you could see them without that. Now you can't see anything. And so it seems to me that's also a climate change issue and a health issue for.
Absolutely.
It's me.
Yes.
Go ahead. I was thinking we should, since we are talking about climate change, night skies and everything, maybe as a sustainability commission in city, we should start thinking about how many trees we want to plant in the backyard of our city people. Maybe in condos or HOAs, we want to give them a number. But you know, the city bought a fleet of cars that's running on diesel, so does city want to offset that by donating 10,000 trees to the people in the city or something like that? I think it's efficient to have a goal, asking the people in our city, say, hey, this year collectively for Earth Day, we want to plant these many trees. So we have fruit trees, not ficus or eucalyptus. Come and pick a tree, or how can we do that? That's something I'm really interested in, as we are talking about climate action, climate change and everything. I think I read somewhere the best day to plant a tree was yesterday. You know, we still have time, so let's plant more trees throughout the cities, in our neighborhoods, in our backyards, and make sure we can eat a little bit off of the trees, not just an ornamental.
Thank you. We've noted everybody's commissioner comments and we'll put those forward for future agendas. Thank you all very much.
It's now time to move to adjourn. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, done. Thank you.
7:55.